The first batch of Agniveer Vayu women are currently undergoing training and will be ready for induction in all trades of the Indian Air Force. As we progress into our centenary decade, you have my assurance that the Indian Air Force will remain fully committed to the protection of sovereignty and territorial integrity of our country. On behalf of the entire Indian Air Force, I express my gratitude to the nation for the trust, confidence and support reposed upon us. Thank you and Jai Hind.
Thank you, sir. We shall now commence with the question and answer session. Before we begin, some ground rules. Kindly ask only one question at a time. Please keep the question brief. And thirdly, if you have an additional or follow-on question, we'll circle back to you after we've given opportunity to others. To begin with, Mr. Ajit Dubey.
Sir, good morning. This is Ajit Dubey from ANI, sir. Sir, you talked about Atmanirbharta in defense sector. Can you tell us, sir, what all important projects are there which the Indian Air Force is supporting in this aspect, and if possible, the worth of these projects, sir? And sir, we were just told in the briefing that this would be the last time the MiG-21 would be flying in the display. If you can tell us about that as well, sir.
Okay. Some of the ongoing contracts and the progress I'm sure you're all aware of. We had signed the contract for 83 LCA Mark 1As. What we are looking at is now to supplement that contract with 97 additional aircraft. So it will bring the total to about 180 LCA Mark 1As. The contract value will be a little over 1.15 lakh crores, I would assume. The light combat helicopter we had inducted into our arsenal last year, 10 of them. We are looking at signing a contract in the coming year for a total of 156 of them. 66 will be with the Air Force. The value of the contract once again will be somewhere around 45,000 crores is what we anticipate. Apart from that, we had already signed a contract for about 6,000 crores for 70 HTT-40 trainer aircraft. We have in the pipeline the upgrade of the Su-30s, 84 of them. The value of this is anticipated to be a little over 60,000 crores. The weapon systems, Akash, new generation, MR-SAM, apart from that the air defense system, the Kusha, the ballistic missile system, the Pralay and so on, are all the contracts which we are expecting to sign sometime in the coming year. So like I had mentioned, the overall value of all these contracts will be well past 2.5 to 3 lakh crores. 2.5 to 3 lakh crores in the coming years. The cash outflow, of course, is like what I mentioned, it will be based on the allotted budget for the year. These contracts will be expected to be fulfilled over a period of about 7 to 8 years. So we will plan our budget accordingly. What is maybe of interest that if you see, except for the FRA, the tanker aircraft and the MRFA, most of the cases for our acquisition are going to be indigenous only. Your second question on the MiG-21s, you are aware that last year also in the same forum I had said that we will stop flying the aircraft by 2025 and we will replace the MiG-21 squadrons with the LCA Mark 1A. So the same proposal is in place. We will start, last year we had wound down one squadron. This year, in another month or so, the second squadron will get number plated and we will follow with the third one sometime next year. The induction of the LCA Mark 1A will fill the gap of these outgoing MiG-21s.
Mr. Ashish Singh.
मॉर्निंग सर, आशीष फ्रॉम एबीपी. सर 42 स्क्वाड्रंस ये हम पिछले कई दशकों से सुनते रहे इन टर्म्स ऑफ टारगेट और एटलीस्ट द मिनिमम रिक्वायरमेंट एसेट और स्क्वाड्रंस पॉइंट ऑफ व्यू. अब काफ़ी कुछ चेंज हो गया क्योंकि ये नंबर हम दशकों से सुनते रहे हैं. टेक्नोलॉजी चेंज हो गई है, थ्रेट परसेप्शन भी बदल गया है, फ्रॉम एक्सरसाइज एंगेजमेंट्स टू मैरीटाइम ऑपरेशंस, ये भी हमें देखने मिल रहा है. एनी थॉट Indian Air Force point of view, looking at the changing scenario of both the threat perception and the technology, rapidly changing technology, to increase or decrease that number in terms of target, 42?
Firstly, let me tell you that even quantity has quality. No, so we need the numbers. The threats you are aware are from various fronts today. The challenges come from the newer technology platforms that our adversaries are possessing today. So it is not sufficient to just have the numbers of low technology platforms. We need to match technology with equivalent or better technology. So therefore, we cannot substitute the numbers with low-end platforms and say that we have got enough. We need to match the capabilities of the adversary and to better it in if possible. So the numbers, I think the requirements will still remain given that the threats that are facing us today.
Mr. Manish from BTI.
Good afternoon, sir. This is Manas Pratim from PTI, Trust of India. So this is about the situation along the LAC, sir. We have seen in the last 3 years, in fact, rapid expansion of Chinese military infrastructure along the LAC, including in the eastern sector. So we have seen, in fact, expansion of military bases, missile bases, helipads, airfields, particularly in areas like Bhutan, Gunsa, and Lhasa. So how do you see this rapid expansion? Because it gives China an added advantage to carry out a broad spectrum of operations, potential operations. So how do you see it, and then how we are trying to counter it? Thank you.
Firstly, we are constantly monitoring the situation across our borders through persistent ISR, and we make note of the build-up of resources and capabilities across the borders. Our operational plans are very dynamic and keep changing based on the situation that we perceive that is developing across any front. So in places where we cannot really counter the numbers or the might of the adversary, we will counter it through better tactics and through better training. So our focus will remain to be dynamic at all times, not to have a fixed mindset on terms of deployment of assets in particular areas, but we have a very, very flexible and dynamic war plans which we keep revising every now and then based on the ISR inputs that we get.
Mr. Baranwal here, please. Idhar.
Sir, good afternoon. During the Indo-Pacific Army Chiefs Conclave, US Army Chief said that India is perceived as regional power. Can we ask you, through your eyes, what all is needed to be the regional power in real terms?
I think what constitutes the... firstly, I must acknowledge that what he said is absolutely correct. We are a regional power, we are a power to reckon with. The constitution, the elements that will constitute this, like I keep saying time and again, are can use the acronym DIME. So our diplomatic prowess, the information capability, our economic powers today, and of course the military. So all these, we need to strengthen all the 4 pillars of the DIME to be able to reckon as a regional power. And I think we are well on the way to be acknowledged globally as a regional power. And there's no doubt on that.
Mr. Sanjeev, there.
Hello. Good afternoon, sir. This is Sanjeev Kumar Barua from The Week. My question is, with a range of fighter and transport aircraft from different originating countries in its fleet, what is the Indian Air Force plan of action to overcome the huge logistics problems of maintenance, spares and overhauls?
Thank you. We need to see an opportunity or an advantage in every challenge that we face. At some time, we were worried about the very large inventory that we hold coming from different countries. But after the ongoing conflict in Europe has taught us that it is better to have multiple options always open to to build up our inventory. We face some challenges in terms of receiving spares from Russia and Ukraine. However, our indigenization drive had taken off a few years ago. A lot of joint ventures were signed by the Russian companies with Indian companies, and which is helping us to mitigate over the shortfall of the spares flowing in from these two countries. In the long term, we also are looking at inviting more of these firms to come and partner with Indian firms to be able to build spares and build components in India so as to sustain our equipment for the next few decades. So the outlook is not bleak at all. It is quite bright. In fact, positive responses are visible, and I'm confident that we should be able to overcome the shortage of spares that we keep going through a sinusoidal curve. When there is a dip, there is always a rise. So we look at the light at the end of the tunnel.
Mr. Ajay Banerjee.
Sir, good afternoon, sir. Towards your left. Sir, I just need a little series-wise clarification since you mentioned the 97 Tejas Mark 1A. Are all these jets 83 plus the 97 to be made by HAL? Because the existing speed of the HAL is around 13 or 14 jets. It will take more than 15 years. Point number 2. Will you stick to the original number of Tejas Mark 2? Will that number change or come down or be shifted? And will these, sir, the third point, the Tejas Mark 1A and 97, will they have any additional features over the existing 83 being made?
Yeah. So firstly, when we are signing the contract will be signed with HAL only for additional 97 Mark 1As. Now HAL may decide to increase the number of production lines in partnership with any Indian private industry. That is yet to be decided. When it comes to the numbers, these are not in lieu of any Mark 2s or any other future induction from HAL's arsenal. So these are independent. These are to cater for the drawdown in the MiG-21 fleet and the requirement to build up our numbers at the earliest. Yeah. So the additional improvements will not be very, very drastic. There will be some changes based on the newer technologies that are available today.
Mr. Rahul.
Sir, can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you. Yeah, Rahul, I can hear you.
Good morning, sir. So my question is a follow-on to a question asked by Marshal earlier. So what is your assessment of the situation along LAC right now? And two, sir, you pointed out that there are some areas in which the adversary might have an edge, and we are catching up, in terms of planning and tactics. So what are those areas, sir?
First, the area is, I would say, the air defense networks. The sheer number of radars and SAW systems which are deployed are quite large. So that is one thing that we keep making amendments to our operational plans based on where these radars and SAW systems are deployed. So this is what I mean by constantly reassessing the deployments and refocusing our own deployment patterns.
Mr. Snehesh.
So the situation along the LAC right now, so what is it like?
I think you are as well informed as I am on this. The situation continues to remain what it was in the last 1 year. There have been certain disengagements at certain contested areas, but a complete disengagement has not yet taken place. So we will continue to remain deployed as we were till complete disengagement takes place.
Yeah.
So Snehesh from the print. You mentioned about the MRFA program. Now this has been pending for long. The Air Force is yet to move the MOD even for the AON for the program. So by when do you think this move will happen? And would this be a redone of the MRFA contract in the sense that the trials and all will take place, or has the Air Force decided on what it wants to do and with what? Especially in case of the Navy, which has gone in for the Rafale M.
Yeah, so the MRFA case is pending for quite some time for major decision points to be taken in terms of what form to be moved this in whether it will form the classic, it will conform to the classic DAP 2020 procedures, or do we need to go in for an intergovernmental agreement with some country. So pending that, the case is still held up for AON, and I am hopeful that some decision is taken in the near future and we start progressing on this case.
Mr. Sudhiranjan Sen.
Sir, you're Sudhiranjan from Bloomberg, sir. So you just kind of mentioned that you're encouraging Russian and Ukrainian companies to set up facilities in India because of the large dependence that the Air Force has. Any, understanding that you can give us on which are these companies, have they set up, or where the negotiations are in this, sir?
I may not, one name comes to mind is there's an Indian company called Space Era, which has an JV with CRET for the electronic warfare equipment which is fitted on the Su-30. I think I'll ask my deputy chief if we can recollect any other name on this.
Please get a mic here.
Okay. So, or the AOM. So, Sudhir, suffice it to say that there are a lot of these companies which are coming up and have already signed JVs. The production has already started in a lot of places. Repair and overhaul is taking place in a lot of cases for some of the CAD components. Some of the spares are being either manufactured or overhauled within India now.
Mr. Sanjeev Rathi, you had a question, sir? There.
सर मैं संजीव राठी हूँ यूएनआई वार्ता से। सर ये अग्निवीर योजना को तकरीबन 1 साल होने वाला, आप कह रहे थे फर्स्ट बैच आ गया है, तो अब तक आपका अनुभव कैसा रहा है इसके बारे में, और आप क्या सोचते हैं कि जो वायुसेना का मैंडेट है या रेस्पॉन्सिबिलिटीज़ है उसको आप इस योजना से पूरी तरह कर पा रहे हैं, उसका दायित्व पूरा कर पा रहे हैं, या उसमें कुछ थोड़ी बाधा आपको लग रही है, या एक प्रभावशाली योजना है?
दोबारा बोलिए, कौन सी योजना के बारे में? अग्निपथ। अग्निपथ, जैसे आप जानते हैं, ये एक हमें एक नया अवसर देते हैं, नया मौका दिया है इसने टू रिव्यू आवर एंटायर ट्रेनिंग प्रोसेस, टू रिव्यू द वे वी ट्रेन एंड इक्विप आवर एयर वॉरियर्स टू बी कॉम्पिटेंट इनफ टू हैंडल ऑल द टास्क दैट दे आर सपोज टू डू। तो इसमें क्या किया हमने, पहला बदलाव जो लाया है, हम हमारी प्रशिक्षण प्रणाली में बदलाव लाया है। जो पहले 36 हफ्ते का ट्रेनिंग होता था उसको हमने कंप्रेस करके 22 हफ्ते में किया है। हमने स्किल मैपिंग की है। जो अग्निवीर ज्वाइन कर रहे हैं, उदाहरण के लिए पहले ऐसे होता था कि हर एक वायु सैनिक को 50 घंटे इंग्लिश लेसन्स लेने पड़ते थे, क्योंकि हमारे सारे मैनुअल सब डॉक्यूमेंट्स इंग्लिश में हैं। उनको टू अंडरस्टैंड द डॉक्यूमेंट दे हैव टू नो इंग्लिश। अभी हमने जैसे स्किल मैपिंग की है और हमें पता चला है कि लगभग 80% लड़के ऐसे हैं जिनको ज़रूरत नहीं है इस 50 घंटे इंग्लिश ट्रेनिंग की, तो उसके इन ल्यू ऑफ दैट वी हैव पुट सम अदर ट्रेनिंग। तो इसी तरह हमने ट्रेनिंग को कंप्रेस किया है और हमारे अभी लगातार यही प्रयास रहेगा कि आने वाले 3-4 सालों में उनके स्किल अपडेशन मॉड्यूल्स हमने किए हैं। सो आफ्टर 1.5 years फर्स्ट स्किल अपडेशन के लिए सब तैयार होंगे। तो बेस्ड ऑन व्हाट आर द स्किल्स एंड हाउ मच दे एसिमुलेट, फिर उनको नेक्स्ट लेवल पे ले जाएंगे। तो ये हमें मौका दिया है कि अग्निपथ स्कीम में टू चेंज द एंटायर ट्रेनिंग फिलॉसफी।
Colonel A.K. Sharma, there in the center.
So my questions are about the Ukraine war and the lessons relevant to India. Now, it's noticeable that the Russian Air Force has not taken part in the operation so far, not in a noticeable way. Probably because of high density anti-air environment, or a similar reason. Now, my question is, does that cause concern to the Indian Air Force, which is holding a similar inventory? Number two, is it a glimpse into how the future air wars are going to be fought? And if that is the case, are we actually modernizing in that direction, or are we by force continuing to go the indigenization way and collecting what we may not need?
Firstly, I may like to correct you in the first statement that the Russian Air Force was not utilized. The Russian Air Force has been utilized to its fullest. Probably the persistence of use of air power till attainment of air dominance or air superiority was not there. Some of the principles of the characteristics of use of air power were not exploited to the fullest. When it comes to our own preparedness, we have now two ends of the spectrum. We prepared for a short and swift war or a long and protracted war. A short and swift war will require certain different type of training, weapon systems and equipment that will allow us to give the full punch in a short period of time. Whereas the long and protracted war would require a lot of resilience, a lot of force preservation, sustenance through indigenization and so on. So we cannot prepare for both ends of the spectrum at the same time. We are constantly watching the situation that is develops across our borders, and we will change our philosophy if the need arises. But suffice it to say that we need to build full spectrum capabilities to be able to counter the adversary in all the domains that are emerging today. Whether not just the three conventional domains of air, land and sea, but we have to develop capabilities, full spectrum capabilities, including space, cyber, electronic warfare and so on. And we are cognizant of the changing dynamics that we have seen in this war, use of one end, the small size drones to the hypersonic weapons. To be able to counter both ends of the spectrum with the existing inventory may always not be feasible, but we are aware of these new developments, and our procurement plans will cater for countering as far as possible both ends of the spectrum.
Mr. Manjeet Negi.
सर मैं जानना चाहता था कि एयरफोर्स के सामने जो फ्यूचर चैलेंजेस हैं और खासतौर से रूस यूक्रेन के बीच रूस से जो S-400 सिस्टम हमने लिया है उसकी तैनाती को लेकर क्या अपडेट है, मतलब ये वो तैनात है और जो बाकी उसका आना बाकी है उसको लेकर क्या अपडेट है?
आपको जानकारी होगी कि हमारा कॉन्ट्रैक्ट था 5 सिस्टम्स के लिए, उसमें 3 की डिलीवरी हो चुकी है और उनके रूस यूक्रेन युद्ध के कारण डिलीवरीज में रुकावट आई है, और हमें उम्मीद है कि आने वाले 1 साल में होपफुली रिज्यूम हो जाएंगे 2 स्क्वाड्रन्स और पूरा हमारा जो कॉन्ट्रैक्ट है वो फुलफिल हो जाएगा आने वाले सालों में. उसके अलावा इंडिजिनस प्रोजेक्ट है, प्रोजेक्ट खुशा, जो LR SAM की बराबरी का प्रोजेक्ट है. उसका प्रोक्योरमेंट केस भी हमने मूव किया हुआ है. चैप्टर 4 के अंडर रहेगा, डिज़ाइन डेवलप बाय DRDO. सो इसमें भी जैसे मैं कहा हमने बजट भी करके रखा हुआ है फॉर एडिशनल 5 स्क्वाड्रन्स ऑफ द खुशा लॉन्ग रेंज एयर डिफेंस सिस्टम. तो इसको लेके हमें उम्मीद है. इसके साथ साथ जो है लॉन्ग रेंज, ये तो लॉन्ग रेंज कैटेगरी में है, MR SAM का भी इंडक्शन हो रहा है 18 फायरिंग यूनिट्स का. हमने 7 और आकाश स्क्वाड्रन्स इंडक्ट किए इसी साल, और अभी आगे प्रयास होगा कि क्लोज इन वेपन सिस्टम्स और एंटी UAS काउंटर UAS सिस्टम्स को किसी जल्दी से जल्दी इंडक्ट किया जाए. तो यही हमारा प्रयास है फॉर टुवर्ड्स द एयर डिफेंस.
मिस्टर मधुरेंद्र.
सर मधुरेंद्र, मैं न्यूज़ नेशन से. यूक्रेन वॉर के संदर्भ में जो बात हो रही थी कि किस तरह से फ्यूचर वॉरफेयर का पूरा डिस्कोर्स चेंज हो रहा है, मैं जानना चाहूंगा कि जो नॉन कॉन्टैक्टिंग वॉरफेयर है उस दिशा में बढ़ते हुए इंडियन एयरफोर्स जो है आने वाले दिनों में क्या इंडक्शन करना चाहता है और किस तरह के प्लान्स हैं ताकि हम अपने को हाइब्रिड वॉरफेयर के लिए तैयार कर पाएं?
हमने पिछले साल एंड में नया डॉक्ट्रिन रिलीज किया था. एक डॉक्ट्रिन में हमारा एक अहम मुद्दा है इसमें, टू बी एबल टू अडेप्ट to the newer paradigms of warfare, including hybrid and non-contact warfare. तो इसको लेते हुए हमने जो फर्स्टली इज आर इक्विपिंग, जैसे मैंने ओपनिंग एड्रेस में बोला था, देर आर सर्टन फोर्स मल्टीप्लायर्स, आर्टिफिशियल इंटेलिजेंस बेस्ड डिसीजन सपोर्ट सिस्टम्स, इलेक्ट्रॉनिक वॉरफेयर सिस्टम्स, साइबर कैपेबिलिटी, स्पेस कैपेबिलिटी, some of it ये जो it is not really openly visible to everybody, but we are continuously developing on this capability to be able to handle the full spectrum of the non-contact warfare that is likely to be faced in future.
Mr. Sandeep Bol, at the rear.
सर मेरा नाम संदीप है, न्यूज़ 18 इंडिया से। मेरा सवाल है सर, आपने एडवर्सरीज की बात की, ये दोनों एडवर्सरीज जो हैं यानी चाइना और पाकिस्तान, दोनों एक ऑल वेदर फ्रेंडली हैं। चाइना जो है 5th जनरेशन फाइटर एयरक्राफ्ट के मैन्युफैक्चरिंग को 100 तक ले जा रहा है, ऐसी रिपोर्ट्स है। तो वहीं चाइना पाकिस्तान को J-10, JF-17 इसको भी सप्लाई कर रही है और पाकिस्तान जो है चाइना को ट्रेन भी कर रहा है। तो क्या ये कोऑर्डिनेशन जो कॉम्बिनेशन है कितना चैलेंजिंग हो सकता है इस पर?
ये आपको पता ही है कि जो ट्रांसफ़र ऑफ टेक्नोलॉजी दोनों देशों के बीच में हो ही रही है। JF-17 मैन्युफैक्चरिंग हो रहा है पाकिस्तान में, 25 J-10Cs का कॉन्ट्रैक्ट है पाकिस्तान का चाइना के थ्रू, और लगभग 15 से ज़्यादा उनको ऑलरेडी डिलीवर हो चुके हैं। वी कीप ऑब्जर्विंग दीज ट्रेंड्स एंड हमें ये भी जानकारी है कि पाकिस्तान और चाइना इकट्ठे ट्रेनिंग करते हैं। उनका हाल ही एक एक्सरसाइज शाहीन हुआ था, तो जो पाकिस्तान के टैक्टिक्स हैं वो चाइना को जरूर इस एक्सरसाइज के थ्रू उनको जानकारी मिलती होगी। तो जहाँ तक हम टेक्नोलॉजी का सामना टेक्नोलॉजी से कर सकते हैं हम कोशिश करेंगे, पर जहाँ पे नहीं हो सकता है हमारी ट्रेनिंग और न्यू टैक्टिक्स हमेशा कंटिन्यूसली इवॉल्व होते रहेंगे। जैसे हमें पता चला है कि दोनों साइड में अभी सिमिलर टाइप की कैपेबिलिटी है, तो हमारे टैक्टिक्स में भी बदलाव आया है।
Ms. Shivani, you had a question?
Sir, in your address you spoke about achieving the goals of Amrit Kal, and we've been seeing a lot of modernization plans going on. But at the same time, do we expect a breakthrough in achieving jointness or the theatre commands as been worked upon?
Jointness, of course, work is always on in, the efforts are on to ensure jointness in plans, jointness in thought. Beyond that is now the next step is to integrate. A lot of work is in progress to integrate resources. We are already integrating some of the maintenance practices of common platforms. We are integrating training. We've had cross-posting of officers and other ranks between the three services. We have formalized a lot of common standard operating procedures. So integration is a work in progress, and we are paying complete attention towards achieving greater integration among the three services. When it comes to the theatre command, we are now talking about the structures. These structures, of course, work is in progress. We meet very frequently to keep discussing on the manner in which the structures will be formulated with least disruption to our warfighting capability. What we are looking at is creating a structure that is designed for our conditions, for the Indian conditions, and not emulating something from some other country. We are continuously aware of the threat perceptions in our neighborhood. So these structures will have to cater for the continuously changing threat perceptions and of course the geopolitical landscape. So it is work in progress. Let me assure you that you will see the end result sometime soon.
Ms. Amrita, you had a question?
Sir, Amrita from the Indian Express. Could you give us some brief on the quantum of air infrastructure which has been built in the last 3 years, especially in eastern Ladakh and the northeast?
Okay. Firstly, we have had in the past, it is not recently, the northeast project through which we had created 9 advanced landing grounds in Arunachal Pradesh and the Northeast. All of them are not only operational, we have opened them up even for use by civil aircraft under the UDAN scheme. In the Eastern Ladakh, we have got the approval for creating an airbase at Neoma. The sanction has been accorded recently and work will start shortly on creating an airstrip at Neoma. Apart from that, we are focusing on creating hardened aircraft shelters, weapon storage areas, and securing all our assets that are already existing in these border areas.
Mr. Dinakar Perry, you had a question?
Hi sir, Dinakar with the Hindu. Sir, on the medium transport aircraft, now that you have begun inducting the C295, what is the way forward on the MTA and how are you going to reclassify the transport fleet given the current requirements?
Yeah,
and the aim to replacement as well. Thank you.
We have already floated the RFI for an MTA aircraft for the 10 to 35 ton class of aircraft. This is primarily to look at the long-term drawdown of the IL-76 fleet. The IL-76 has been the strategic airlift backbone for almost 3.5 decades now, and by the end of this decade or early next year, we have to have a replacement for the IL-76 fleet. So the RFI responses have been received. We have to now start focusing on what is the indigenous content that the OEMs can provide, and based on that we will move the case forward. The numbers we have not yet finalized because it will be dependent on 2-3 other factors which we have to look at. One is of course the MRTT, the FRA aircraft, and the AEWC platforms and so on. So we'll have a plethora of transport aircraft category. So we may need to optimize the numbers.
Mr. Srinjoy Chaudhary.
Sir, over here. So on the 22nd of September, 12 senior personnel from a Turkish company, I think it's called SDF, landed up in Muri in Lower Topa. And this is to help the Pakistanis with image processing, EW, radar, stuff like that. So it is generally being seen that Turkey has been helping Pakistan a lot. Is there anything that India can do? Have you asked the government, maybe it can be taken up at a diplomatic level or something like that? The second thing is near Mansarovar, the Chinese have installed a flat board radar. So in both these cases, since you people have been discussing this, clearly they are important. Can you tell us what is happening on both counts?
I think the partnership between Turkey and Pakistan is well known. They have not only got a lot of equipment, Pakistan has got a lot of equipment from Turkey. They have also been exercising together for many years. They have an annual or a biannual exercise called the Anatolian Eagle. They have been participating. We are aware of the strong partnership between these two nations, but I don't know whether it is up to me to decide on how to counter this partnership between the two countries. But suffice it to say that I think we have adequate measures in place to ensure that we also have robust partnerships with our strategic partners. When it comes to the radar deployments, yes, there are not only there, all along the northern borders, there are newer radars that have been seen to be deployed. We keep monitoring the developments that take place. We are aware of the radar platter, as it is called. We know how deep they can see within our country. Our counter is through our own mountain radar project and the triple AWRs. We have these lightweight radars that we continuously keep deploying and redeploying based on what we see developing across the borders. In the long run, we are looking at deploying mountain radars at these strategic locations. to be able to see equally deep into the adversary's territory.
Okay, we have just about enough time for a couple of last questions. Mr. Neeraj Rajput.
हाय सर, नीरज राजपूत फ्रॉम फाइनल असॉल्ट। सर, इस साल के शुरुआत में एक अनफॉर्चुनेट इंसिडेंट हमने देखा था कि ग्वालियर के पास सुखोई और मिराज का क्रैश हुआ था। तो सर, इस तरह के क्रैश के बारे में क्या पता चल पाया है कि कैसे ये क्रैश हुआ? क्योंकि पीस टाइम में हम लोग कम सुनने में आता है किस तरह के क्रैश, और आगे किस तरह से हम लोग कोशिश करेंगे कि इस तरह के क्रैशेस ना हो एयरफोर्स में।
ये बहुत ही अनफॉर्चुनेट इंसिडेंट था। इसकी कोर्ट ऑफ इंक्वायरी कंप्लीट हो चुकी है एंड अनफॉर्चुनेटली वी लॉस्ट वन पायलट इन द एक्सीडेंट। सो it was a case of a human failure, human error. So all measures are there, SOPs have been revised, all our procedures have been revised. We are, we try to fix the weakest link in this whole chain of process as to where that failure had occurred. So it's a continuous process. Unfortunately, we lost a pilot in that accident, so we leave it at that.
Pradeep sir, last question to you.
So this is Pradeep Sagar from the India Today. Yeah, sir, this side. Sir. So just an update on the helicopter fleet, the utility helicopter basically, and what is the status of the light utility with HAL, sir?
Sorry, I can't hear you. You may have to repeat it, please.
So just an update on the utility helicopter fleet, sir, and what is the status of the LUH contract with the HAL, sir?
The LUH contract, the TEC has been finalized. We are, I think, already in the process of starting the CNC for the LUH. That's what you're asking, the LUH? In that the Army is the lead service for this. So right now the contract is for the initial LUH Mark 1 as it is called, that is the LSP version which has come out. The other case for the LUH Mark 2 is still at what we call the statement of case, SOC stage. Numbers are not yet decided for the LUH.
Thank you very much. I'm sure there are some additional questions we can
take one. See, we were cognizant of the capabilities of drones. We took the initiative by having the Meher Baba competition to see for ourselves what a swarm drone can provide us in terms of capability enhancement. Having done that, we had signed the contract for acquiring swarm drones. We launched the second Meher Baba competition for utilizing drones for carrying out a check on the foreign objects on the runway and operating surfaces. So the utility of drones was also recognized through the demonstration that was given to us at Bharat Drone Shakti conducted just last week. So we are well aware of what drones can do and what they bring to the table. The acquisition of drones will only be supplementing our traditional capabilities. As of now, we do not see a place, an area where drones will replace existing manned capability. We will make a beginning, like I said, by the manned-unmanned teaming, having drones flying alongside fighters in some missions. And as the technology develops and it has adequate AI-based capability to replace the man in the loop, we will have to transform into unmanned systems, carrying out or completely replacing manned systems in the future.
Thank you so much. I'm sure there are some more questions, but questions off the record can continue subsequently.
Thank you.
As we have organized for you.
Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. Please join us for lunch.